Okay, what's up guys? So in this video, I'm gonna give you guys a little bit of background on who I am and what my background in tech actually is. So where did I come from? What's my experience? All that kind of stuff. Long story short, I worked in FANG. I worked at Facebook and Amazon. At Facebook, I was a data engineer on a machine learning / ranking team. And at Amazon, I was a software engineer working on the ads pricing team. And now I'm working on startup / side projects / content, which I also took a year to do that before. And before all this stuff, I had, school. I was a Bachelor of Science in Computer Science at Indiana University, which is a decent state school. And I did a lot of internships. So I'll get into those. So let's start with school and internships. I'm trying to make this video less than 10 minutes and also not make any edits, but we'll see. Okay, so I actually went to school for a year and a half right after high school, and then I failed out of that. I was going for accounting, and that was like kind of a bad time in my life. And if you guys are interested in that, let me know, because I'll go into that. But basically, I failed out of college. I was working construction, some odd jobs kind of like that, and I was actually listening to a lot of audiobooks while I was working. One of them was Steve Jobs' biography, and one of them was How to Create a Mind by Ray Kurzweil. He's a big AI guy. And I was also doing music, and so like making beats on my laptop. And I kind of put two and two together, and I was like, man, this like tech AI data science was really hot right then. I was like, this is gonna be a game changer. And this, by the way, this was like 2012, 2013 or something. And I would make beats, and I was like putting two and two together, and I was like, man, I think you could probably build a model to do a lot of this stuff that I'm doing right now. And so I really got into machine learning and data science. Tried to learn to code a little bit, but decided that it wasn't too late to go back to school. And so I went back to school. I went to Indiana University for computer science. And right from the very first summer, I tried to start getting internships, and it was really hard. IU is not a target school. It's not Berkeley or even Michigan or any of the other good computer science schools. So it's a little bit harder to get into tech, especially the FANG companies from those like non-target schools. So, but yeah, I started trying to get internships. I'll just go through them really quick because this is already coming up on 5 minutes, but let's see. First one, I was a research assistant just at the university. There was a little bit of code involved, but not much. Then I was a junior database analyst at a company called Harmony Healthcare IT, which is really cool because that's where I learned SQL, and healthcare data is really restricted. You have to know what the rules are for dealing with that data. And it just gave me, the first industry look of what things were actually like. Then I think I did a remote internship kind of thing for this company called vSolveit, but that was not that cool. But I did make a database. I designed a database for all the interns so that the person that managed all the interns could manage them a little bit better. And then two what I would say real software engineering internships the summer right before my senior year. So one was I was a software engineer intern at a company called SBB Research Group, which is a small hedge fund in North Chicago. And so I learned about, different securities, trading. That was really interesting to me. I love like markets and economics and trading and the opportunity to make models that could make money just by buying and selling stocks. That was really cool. And then right after that was actually during the winter. I took a semester off. And then right after that, during the summer, I did another software engineering internship at this company called Civis Analytics, which is a company in Chicago. Again, I was a software engineer intern, and that company is basically like a data science platform product. So they have the platform for doing data science, and then they also have data scientists there, kind of like as a consulting arm for that company. And so I was I just moved a lot of data around again. But yeah, that was really fun. That was like probably the closest internship experience that I got to working at a real tech company. So yeah, that was the school and internships. Wow, that was a lot for one bullet point. And then, okay, so now graduated school, or almost graduated school. Last year of school, right, when everyone's trying to get a job. I'm sure there's a lot of struggle there these days because the jobs aren't as easy to get. But believe me, it was a struggle for me to get a job. Like, all these internships were not easy and to get, right? Like, I felt lucky just to get the first one. I felt lucky to get the second one. And every time I was like, I got enough experience. I can do this. I'm smart. I can code. I'm gonna get a good internship. And every time it was like rejection, 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 no answer, no answer, no answer. And it's like, oh my God, like, what is happening? So first of all, don't give up. Like, keep going and build the experience step by step. But yeah, so my senior year, I probably applied to like 200 or so companies or something. And I think I did a lot of interviews, a lot of rejections, but when it came down to it, I really only had 2 offers. One was a return offer from Civis Analytics. Probably could have gone back to SBB Research Group too, but I didn't get like a written offer for returning there. They didn't really do that. But then, yeah, besides Civis Analytics, it was an offer from Facebook as a data engineer. So data engineer is not a software engineer. What a data engineer is at Facebook is more like a business intelligence engineer role where you make dashboards, you do a lot of SQL, but the SQL is kind of encased in this Python framework. So you do some Python coding, and then you do have to understand a lot of software engineering concepts and to be able to work with the software engineers and with the data scientists and actually make a technical impact. Data engineers at Facebook, they get paid, when I was there, about like 80% of what software engineers get paid. But there's a lot of people that go from one to the other, usually from DE to SWE, from data engineer to software engineer. But there are 2 different roles. But I will say that, so at Facebook, I was a data engineer on a machine learning team, which was, I thought, the coolest team that you could be a part of as a data engineer, because you have these machine learning models and you're providing the data to train those models. And so that's what I did, is basically aggregated a lot of the data so that we could train the models to rank contacts and other things that we would rank. And that data would also be used to power the stuff that the data scientists did to try to make the models better. So a lot of data, big data, AI, ML, all that cool stuff, data science. That was from 2019 to 2021. Then I kind of saw my trajectory at Facebook, and like, I could have stayed there, but something in me was like, I just didn't like the predictability of like knowing just this progression of like, okay, you get a promotion, now you do this, then you get a promotion, now you do this. And I wanted to do what I always really wanted to do, which was start a company. And so from what I learned at Facebook, I thought I had a good idea to start a startup. What I learned at Facebook was how ranking works. And without going in too deep, it's like you basically build a model to rank stuff like posts in your feed or contacts in your contact list of who you might want to send a message to. And you use machine learning to do that. And so I was like, hey, we rank content and contacts based on the probability that someone will do a certain behavior, like the post or send the message. Why not rank the content or the people or whatever you're ranking based on the probability that it will actually be helpful for the person trying to reach some goal that they have not, succeeded in reaching. And so, long story short, I built a habit tracker And the idea was, hey, you come to the app, you set the habit goal, and then you get content that is statistically ranked to help you with your goal. And you would train the model based on, you show some content to someone. If they do the habit after they saw the content, then that would be a positive example. And that would go into the training data. One thing I learned is that building a startup is really hard. It's probably like not twice as hard, but probably 3 times as hard to build on your own. And it was really hard. And it's still hard. And I'm still technically on my own, but I have a lot more support and a lot more under my belt now. But so yeah, I tried the startup. I actually moved from SF, from San Francisco to Austin for that year to save some money on rent while I was doing the startup. And I was in Austin. The app was like, I had it shipped. I had something on iOS and Android. People were using it. But the way that I started to get initial users was that I made an Instagram account. And eventually that Instagram account started doing better than the app itself. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna lean into the Instagram thing because this is working. And pretty close towards the end of that year, I was able to get brand deals, and that's how my Instagram went from, 0 to probably like 75,000 followers or something. And it was wild how that happened. And I think the reason why, so I started making like 5 hacks to improve productivity because it was a habit tracker or whatever. But then I started doing more of the trendy reels, like, this is a data scientist, and like skits and stuff like that. And those started to pop off. And also because it was a productivity niche, and that was like right when COVID was happening, everyone was into habits. Like everyone was reading Atomic Habits, and everyone was figuring out how to be productive while working from home. So for whatever reason, the productivity tech niche was like booming. Plus, that's when they just launched Reels, trying to compete with TikTok. And I was posting Reels while everyone else who was already on Instagram was like, no, we don't like Reels and all this stuff. But the Reels were blowing up. So I was like, all right, this is sick. And that was like literally when I got the vast majority of my followers was in that like first like 6 months or something. And yeah, started doing sponsored posts, which was cool. But eventually I reached a point where I was like, okay, if I can make this much money per month doing sponsored posts, then I won't get a job. But if I don't do it, then I'll get a job. And honestly, I was kind of burned out by that time, and I was close to my goal, but I was like, all right, I'm gonna get a job. Because yeah, I was just kind of burnt out and wanted to see what else I could do. So I applied a lot of different places. I studied really hard, and ultimately I got a job as a software engineer. I was an L5 at Amazon. By the way, if you're a recruiter, you did not hear that. I was not an L5. This is a lie. No, I'm just joking. But no, I was an L5. So L5 at Amazon, I was on the ads pricing team. So first of all, I learned a lot about advertising in the tech industry, which is a huge part of the tech industry. And specifically, I learned about how ads are priced, not the individual impressions, like a fraction of a cent, even though I did learn that stuff. But what I worked on was more about like how you charge the people who use the platform. So if you're a brand like Nike or Adidas and you want to run an ad campaign, you come to our platform, you upload the picture, video, whatever you want to show as the ad, and then we at Amazon would show that ad to different people, whoever would be likely to be interested in it. And we wouldn't just show it on Amazon, we would show it on any different website that was connected to the ad platform. So learned a ton about ads, learned a lot about money, or monetary units in big software systems where money is really critical, fast moving, accuracy is really important, currency exchange rates are really important. A lot of like fine-grained stuff for massive huge scale systems, software systems. So that was awesome. And also I got to do some pretty cool design work here and just kind of validate my strengths as a real software engineer, because I didn't get to do that at Facebook. I learned a ton here at the startup, but when you're working at a startup, you don't really know what's right and what's wrong because you don't have anyone above you to say that this is wrong or whatever. But at Amazon, you get that. And a lot of the designs that I would propose were actually pretty, they were logical. It wasn't like I was, doomed to fail or whatever. It was like, I was actually not bad at designing software systems and kind of validated a lot of the ideas for designs that I had and what was important, that kind of stuff. So ultimately, kind of the same thing happened as what happened at Facebook, where it was like, you can see your path that's been laid out for you at this company. And to me, that's just so boring. And another thing about Amazon, by the way, I love my old coworkers, whoever I've worked with, even if we butted heads or something like that, I totally respect you. And I didn't butt heads with a lot of people, but just even if that was the case, I got along great with most of my coworkers. But out of all of them, I really love and respect all of them, and I miss them too. And what was I going to say about that? So, but I will say that the Amazon culture is not the most nice, kind culture, and the politics and all that kind of stuff, and how hard you have to work to get a promotion. You just got to really give a lot of your time and energy and life to it. And that wasn't really something that I decided that was really healthy for me, or it just turned out not to be really healthy for me and what I, wanted to do in life. And so eventually, after some time, I left Amazon with the intent of, hey, I now have this content creation sort of business where I am getting revenue from sponsored posts. I'm a little bit more established as a software engineer, and now we have AI. And dude, I was at Amazon basically learning stuff as you go, kinda. And the rate at which I learned new stuff because of things like ChatGPT, Claude, whatever was available, I was just like, dude, I'm learning stuff so much faster. If I would have had this when I was doing the startup before, I would have built way more stuff. And so I was like, dude, okay, even though I don't have a co-founder, even though I don't have a product that's generating revenue, I do have the potential to make a lot of agents, which is offloading some work. And I do have the revenue from the content. So why not just take another stab at it? And so, so that's what I'm doing now, is doing the content thing. Out of all this stuff, one of the things that I've said before on the channel, but one of the things that I'm really passionate about is how much you can do with data. People don't realize how valuable data is, and people just give it away to companies, and the companies leverage the heck out of that data. And all of the value is pretty much going to the companies in terms of monetary value for the most part. And I don't think they should be that way. I think people should realize the value of their data and they should leverage it. And, if you have something of value, you don't just give it away. You try to understand it. You try to see what the gift of that thing is, and you try to leverage it to help yourself, help other people, help your family, help your friends. If you have a gift, you use it to do cool stuff with it and build on that. So I think the first thing is that people just need to learn. People need to understand tech, even if they don't work in tech. Tech affects everyone. Software affects everyone. And everyone is giving away their data. But if people realize and understand how software works, and ultimately now that everyone's a kind of a builder, if they're using AI, everyone can be pretty much a software engineer now. And so I think it's time for people to start realizing like, hey, this tech thing is something that I can be a part of. All it takes is for me to understand the language that they're speaking and the tools that they're building with. And I think that those tools are getting better. The languages are getting easier because now we can just code with natural language pretty much. But all it takes is learning these software concepts, like what is a server? How does the internet work? What is like communication between servers? What's security? What's authentication? All that kind of stuff. It's just pieces that are put together. And that's not really code. That's not programming. That is system design. And so I think where we're going now is more like everyone should have a say in how systems are designed. And you can have a say now, because if you can speak in natural language, you can build stuff that coders build. And all it takes is just learning the concepts. So that's where I'm at now. Just wanted to give you guys a little bit of background so that you know that I'm not a PhD expert in AI, but I'm also not, coming in from this with nothing under my belt. It's like I'd spent, 2.5 years at Facebook under one of the best machine learning managers there, who's now like a director shortly after I was gone. And like all the people I worked with are really cool. And that's not to say that, but like the whole team was into ML, into improving the product, into just making a better experience of the product out of data, running experiments to improve the model, data to train the model, improvements to the model, whether it's through infrastructure or whatever. A lot of exposure to AI type of projects there. And then also like ads is pretty much an AI business. Ads are ranked based on your probability to convert on the ad, to buy the thing in the ad. And that's pretty much all some type of AI, quote unquote. I say that because AI is like so loosely thrown around, but a lot of it is machine learning. And that's what I think I'm I wouldn't say good at, but like I have a good understanding of it and good application of it. And yeah, and so I'm starting what is it called? AI for Creators study group. I don't know if the link will be there still, but it was in my story, but I think it'll probably be gone by the time this is posted. But yeah, leave a comment or DM me or whatever, and you can get in that study group. I really do think that education is one of the biggest things that AI can help us with, and it's one of the biggest keys in order for us to build a better world, man. Like everyone hates the algorithm. I mean, everyone likes the algorithm, right? Because it does give you good content, but everyone hates like how, you have to be in a certain niche, and then sometimes it gives you like all this type of content over and over. And sometimes it's like not healthy content. It's always like clickbait for like lead you down a dark rabbit hole and you just get depressed or something like that. It's like, there's a lot of things that are wrong with AI. And I think actually, if you look at what smart people really say, like Nobel Prize winners and AI experts, AI is going to be a big potential for big problems. And I think we gotta get in front of that before that gets too far ahead. And it's moving fast. So yeah, quick learning is the key. So if you have any questions, drop a comment. I'll probably answer them. All right, peace guys.